Hello there, dear YouTubers, or the people who are visiting this website. Hello there, dear website visitors. My name is Mr. Colorless King. Okay, so here's the topic. Today I'll be finally discussing about one of the dimension of my CKDM model. Okay, so the page will be updated today. It is still not updated yet, and everything that is written here, it will be changed. Okay, so today I will be talking about is the CKDM model. Okay, so in my previous video I talked about what this CKDM is. It is basically a way for many of the physicists who are working in the quantum mechanic to get a proper idea of what we are actually dealing with. Okay, and from that point of perspective we can finally be able to understand what the concept of dimension is and why I am against Einstein theory of special and general relativity. Okay, so in my previous video I talked about a certain topic such as the positron why the positron is a hoax, the fight against theoretical physics math at colorlessking.com. Okay, so where I basically stated that Paul Dirac actually didn't detected anything. He just made some stupid math, and those stupid math were given a Nobel Prize because it happened to meet the same time during the time of Carl David Anderson when he actually detected something in the cloud chamber. Okay, so this is the whole definition. And in case if you're wondering, uh, is this my website? Is this my channel? Yes, this is my channel. Here is my name written here, and this is the place where I am uploading the video. And the video that I will be uploading it will eventually be available in this website. Okay, so don't get confused. I am the same person, and this will be the logo of my website, and this is the model for my CKDM model. Okay, so now let's start. Today I will be talking about this negative negative 4 dimension. Okay, so this is my starting point in the negative 4 dimension of what it actually is. So let's start. So the first thing that I actually have written in my paper, okay, in my paper I have a paper somewhere around here it is. So in my paper I have actually written a proper way of writing a paper, but still many things are missing. So in the first topic I have stated that we actually do not know what the proper foundation of the physics is, and as a result we have actually gone in the wrong direction. So in the paper I have specifically talked about negative 4 dimension. Okay, so the question is, what is a negative 4 dimension? So let's start here. So first of all we must need to know what a clock is. Okay, so when we talk about a clock, how many types of clock do we human beings know of? There are total 4 different types of clock that we human beings actually know. One of them is sundial. Sundial is something that people used to use a very long time ago, with the sun facing in a certain angle during the day, and from that we are able to conduct how or what time it is and when will the sun eventually go down. And from there this concept of sundial clock eventually came to exist. So how does this sundial clock work? This sundial clock work with the help of what we call it the direction of the sun. For example, let's say this I this is a person. Okay, this is a person, and this is the sun, and this is the sundial. Okay, so it has a stick. So based on the location of the sun, if the sun eventually go in this direction, then this stick will put a shadow in this direction here. Okay, so this is how we are able to know how the sundial work. It is a point of reference of where the shadow will be. Based on that we know what a sundial is. So sundial is basically a type of clock that allows us to know where the sun angle is based on the shadow we are seeing. This is how the sundial work. Now there is another type of clock which is called the sand clock. Now how does the sand clock work? A sand clock work is by dividing how much sand is needed in order to fully go from up to bottom and see how much sand is needed in order to make sure that the sun is eventually have rise and fallen to the east and west stuff. Okay, so the question is, okay, how does the sand clock work? So in the sand clock, what happens is they measured how much sand is needed, how much sand is needed, and then they saw where the sun is. So let's say this is the sun and how much time it takes to make the sun fall from the east to the west, or based on your direction from west to east, from your point of direction. Okay, so this is the time frame, and this amount of the amount of sand that is needed in order to measure how much time it actually takes for the sun to rise and to set. They took the amount of sand and eventually made, this is the amount of sand needed. Let's say it is 1 kilogram amount of sand needed to see the sun rise from the east and go to the set to the west. Okay, so this is how a what should I call it, a sand clock works. Okay, so how does the sand clock work? It works by two references. Okay, a sand clock work by two references. It detects how much sand is needed in order to perform a certain action. Okay, so this is point number one. The sand clock measures two things, and that is, in the old time, people used to see when did the sun rise and was setting and how much sand was needed. This is a measurement of amount in gram or kilogram. So in kilogram or gram, G-R-A-M, gram. So the question is, this is one of the thing, and the second thing is gravity. The second thing is gravity. Gravity was the reason why the sand is falling to the bottom. Okay, so a sand clock primary function is by looking at how much sand has fallen to the bottom to expect how much time has passed. Okay, so this is how the sand clock work, but this is the concept how it works, but the actual mechanism is gravity. In this case, the sundial actual mechanism is gravity, but in this case the angle of the sun matters most than the gravity itself, whereas in the sand clock gravity matters more, because if the sand didn't fall, then this clock would have not worked. Okay, and now eventually came the quartz clock. Okay, so what is a quartz clock? A quartz clock is basically a crystal. Okay, now many people will not know this, so let me say it. QUARTZ, quartz clock or watch, same thing. So a quartz clock uh, in invention time invention time invention time. So when was quartz clock invented? So quartz clock was invented in 1927. So before the quartz clock came, there were many other different types of clock, such as pendulum clock, many other things. But eventually when the quartz clock came, what happened was it needed a certain type of frequency. Okay, how does the quartz clock work? It works with a certain type of frequency, and how much frequency is needed? QUARTZ, quartz, CLOCK, clock, frequency. So a quartz clock need a frequency of 32,768 hertz. Okay, this is the amount of vibration, not a normal vibration. This is called piezoelectric vibration, I think. Quartz clock has a thing called piezoelectric vibration, which is basically like a crystal vibration. A crystal vibration, when the crystal vibration happens about 12,728 times, only then it causes one tick, okay, and that is how the quartz clock came into existence. Now as things got more and more sophisticated, eventually came the atomic clock. So what is the atomic clock? So the atomic clock is actually much difficult to draw. So first of all, let me give the example of the quartz clock first. So let's say this is a crystal. As electricity, or let's say electron, is entering this place and eventually going out from the other place, this thing vibrate, okay. So this vibration, let's say V for vibration. So as this crystal is vibrating at a certain amount, about 30 to almost 32k times, only then 1 second happens, only then 1 second happens, okay. This is quartz clock, okay. Now what about atomic clock? Atomic clock is much different, okay. Atomic clock. So atomic clock is basically like a something which is very complicated for me to draw. So think of it like this: a certain laser light will hit a certain atom, and this light hitting the atom in such a frequency that the atom itself loses the amount of vibration, it goes completely silent, and then another beam of light from another direction is then hit on the atom. This is the atom, okay, on the atom, and eventually this atom, okay, starts to vibrate, and the amount of vibration that is detected within the lowest amount is what causes the atomic clock, okay. This atomic clock to get detected in the detection device, let's say a detection device, and that detection device basically says how much it is vibrating. So even in this atomic clock, a quartz crystal is still needed. So a quartz crystal, what does it do? It basically detects how much vibration is needed for 1 second, and this is taken here, and then another vibration is taken from this atomic clock with this complicated mechanism of light of two different type. One light lowers the vibration, another light increases the vibration, and eventually we get a total outcome of how much the atomic clock is vibrating, and based on that we get a certain number. So the amount of, or the different types of atomic clock that we can think of right now are basically two types, and that is, let's see, somewhere around here is written, I think at the bottom part, somewhere around here, okay, here it is. So there are two type of uh, clock we know of right now. One is a strontium clock, strontium atomic clock. Another one is cesium atomic clock. So a cesium atomic clock has about let's see, 9 billion 192 million 600,000 30 631,770 vibration per second, of what, of quartz. So if a quartz crystal vibrate about 32,000 times, then we this is the human measurement, let's say, and the atomic clock measurement, they look for about, how much was it, about 9 billion, about 9.2 billion, about 9.2 billion time. So this is how the atomic clock works, okay. So the question is, what is happening in this case? In this case the same mechanism is happening, such as electricity with the help of light is entering the atom, and as the atom is vibrating, we get a certain number. From that number we say how much the atomic clock is vibrating, okay. So this is how the atomic clock works. So from that point of perspective, the question is, when the atomic clock, which is made of atomic clock made of atom, and earth, this is earth is made of lots of atom, okay, the earth is also made of lots of atom, and the gravity, uh, uh, the earth has a lot of gravity, and due to this gravity, when the atomic clock is near the earth, when the atomic clock is near the earth surface, the atomic clock slows down, okay, the atomic clock then slows down. Or if the atomic clock in the international space station, when the international space station move around the orbit of the earth at a speed of about 7 kilometer per second, then the atomic clock also slows down. So what does it speak? It speaks that atomic clock is made of atom, and the earth is also made of atom, and when earth is near the atomic clock, or the atomic clock when it is near it, somehow it gets affected, okay. Now the main issue here is we are forgetting that the atomic clock is part of the atomic system. So when people say then it means if the atomic clock slows down, that it means that the reality is slowing down. This is total nonsense, because if the atomic clock is made of atom, and all type of devices are made of atom, okay, then if the atomic clock slows down near earth, then it means the earth, which is also made of atom, one atom is affecting the other atom. So what Einstein did in this case is, instead of saying that somehow one atom is affecting the other atom, he just went out and say somehow gravity is leaking from a negative dimension to a positive dimension. This is what I call bullshit physics, okay. So how can we fix this? First of all, we need to understand what my CKDM model is about. My CKDM model specifically talks about that the fourth dimension. In this paper here, you guys can download it from my Discord server. In my Discord server, it will be available. So what is the negative four dimension in my model? Let's start with that. So according to Einstein and Minkowski, the teacher of Einstein, said that the fourth dimension is time. Now the question is, if fourth dimension is time, then how come dimension 1, 2 and 3 are working? Because time need to be before them in order for dimension 1, 2 and 3 to work, not after them, okay. So this is where the problem started, okay, because our concept of physics is, guys, we found something new, let's add it and give it some nonsense name, non S-E-N-S-E, nonsense name, and say, guys, look, we detected another dimension 4, which is time. Okay, so this is the nonsense. Instead, we should be asking, should time exist before dimension 1, 2 and 3? This is the main topic here. So if dimension of the reality, which allows time to flow, happens, then obviously this must need to happen first, then the dimension 1, 2 and 3 will happen later. So this is where the concept of simulation hypothesis starts, okay. So what is a simulation hypothesis? Okay, what is a simulation hypothesis? Simulation hypothesis is the idea that simulation hypothesis. So simulation hypothesis is the idea that all the things that we are experiencing in our life is part of a simulation, like a video game. Like you make a character with inside the video game, and you cause it to move. So the question is, okay, how the moving is happening. So in order to understand this part, we must need to understand uh, infinite loop function. So what is an infinite loop function? In order to understand this, let me give you an idea here. So about 2 years ago, I started to learn Python. Python. So while I was learning Python, I came across a certain function, Function, function. Okay, so in that certain function, I came across the loop function. Okay, so the loop function, this actually exists in every programming. It doesn't matter what type of programming it is. In every programming, you'll have different syntax, like different way of writing the program, but the loop function exists in every case. So what is an infinite loop function? An infinite loop function is basically like, let's assume the reality is moving. Okay, so let's say there is room A and room B. In both of these two room, gravity exists, but the continuity, okay, so my -4 dimension is actually called, where is it, okay, so in this paper of mine, the -4 dimension is called the loop function. Okay, so what is a loop function or continuity? Allow me to explain. So -4 dimension is something that from dimension 4 to dimension 0 is the dimension that no being inside the dimension 1 to 16 is capable of changing, because this dimension from -4 to 0 dimension gave rise to this dimension, which is why this is the diagram that I created. So what is this diagram saying? This diagram is saying that this -4 dimension to this 0 dimension creates how the reality will function. And we human beings are made of atom, and this atom have total 16 different characteristics. Okay, so the video is gonna get long. So in that regard, what is time then? What is time? Time is basically like the loop function. Okay, time is basically like the loop function. Okay, so how is it looping, one might ask. Okay, in the future video I will talk about that -1 dimension is basically the rules of how the atom will function. So it is like the background code of the reality, the -1 dimension. But for now, let's only concentrate on the -4 dimension. So the -4 dimension is like the loop function of reality, or this is what we actually call con t new new et continuity. Okay, continuity. So what is continuity? Continuity is what that gives us the ability to move. So let's say there is a human being. Okay, there is a human being walking, and in order for the human being to walk from this place to here, the function must need to work. Okay, this same logic also apply in coding as well. So if let's assume that this is not reality, this is a video game. In the video game, the character, this is the character must need to move from left to right. Then obviously the loop function must need to work. So whenever I input the command go to the right area from my keyboard, then eventually this character will go from this left position here to this right position here, or in this area. So how this is happening? This is happening because the loop function of the game is working. So the question is, okay, does this mean that the loop function of reality actually happens all the time in every places at once? Yes, it happens in all the time in every places at once. So in my paper, which I'm going to give a just a brief description here what it is. So I have written here what it actually is. So mechanism versus measurement, which I already talked about, like how the clock, different type of clock function. Uh, the sun clock, mass moving through a narrow space, gravity pulls the particle towards the mass. Okay, sundial, relative rotation of planetary bodies. Earth is spinning on its axis relative to the light source. Quartz and atomic clock are basically electronic related. So this case, the crystal is deforming in the quartz clock, and the electron are jumping from high energy to low energy state within the atom, and this is how the atomic clock functions. So in this question, we should be asking, okay, what is causing the gravity, the light, the electricity to even work? What is causing this to work? So in order for this to work, there is another thing we must need to understand, and that is, when I said the negative one dimension is basically the rule of the universe, this rule dictates how, let's say G for gravity, how the sunlight, or how the electrons will function. Based on that, when the rules of the universe is properly made, only then the negative 4 dimension causes this rule to follow. As a result, this gravity, light, and electron actually doing their work, and from this discrete event of changes, we make calculation with clock, such as a certain type of clock from this place here, this type of clock. We then use this type of clock as a measurement. So when we say, where is the reality of the, where is the clock of the reality, like, let's say i am I have a clock. Okay, I have a clock, and I took the battery, B for battery, out of the clock. Now the clock is not working. So similarly, if the clock is not working because I have took the battery outside of the clock, then the question is, where is the battery of the reality? The battery of the reality is not within the 1 to 16 characteristics of the atom. It is outside of this, which is why this diagram again came into existence in my head, because the negative 4 dimension, or the battery of the reality, is not the electron, not the light, not the gravity itself, but the battery of the reality is outside of the scope of the uh, beings that exist with inside the system. So we human beings, or any type of beings, let's say from religious point of perspective, one might say demon, angel, human, animal, everything that are basically moving, even gravity itself. Let's say a certain action is happening. Let's say there is ball this ball falls into the ground because the continuity is active in room A. But in room B, even though the gravity exists, the continuity is not active. As a result, the ball will stay on the ceiling and will not fall to the ground. This is the exact reason what I am saying, that when it comes to physics, majority of the greatest scientists, such as Einstein, Minkowski, and even let's say Newton, they were confused about this concept, because the concept of a video game, or the simulation hypothesis idea, didn't existed during their time. As a result, they do not understand what the simulation hypothesis is. Had they understood this topic, they would have said, if this is truly the reality, then it means everything that they have measured are basically what we are allowed to measure. Okay, so this is where the simulation hypothesis begin, of why negative 4 dimension is basically the loop function of reality. Okay, so this is the loop function of reality, negative 4 dimension. Now let's move on to the next topic of the same issue here. So uh, where is it? Okay, so I fed my paper here, and a lot more stuff came out. Okay, so there are a lot of stuff in my paper, so it will eventually come out. So the question is, okay, what is negative 4D? Does it have any physical nature? So I have said that no, negative 4D doesn't have any physical nature. It works like an ontological model, like it works. I do not know what it looks like outside of the reality. we know that it works. So it is fundamental condition of change. It is not a thing that flows, but rather the essential condition that allows things to flow. Without negative 4D, physical law would remain inert, and events like ball falling under gravity would not unfold. So this picture here, you see, this would not happen if continuity itself doesn't allow the function of the gravity to happen. So let's say gravity exists in both room, but it only happens in room A because continuity happens. Okay. Now, infinite and invariant. So the question is, how can we say that the loop function of reality is infinite? How can we say it is invariant? Because as I said, the atomic clock is made of atom, and the earth is also made of atom, and the gravity of the earth is very high on the surface of the earth. So when the atomic clock is on the let's say GROUND is on the ground, then the atomic clock slows down. Why does it slows down? It is a different function. It is a function which exists within the dimension of 1 to 16. 1 to 16. Okay, this is the reason, and one of those reason is when the pull force increases, the vibration rate decreases, but it is going to be a lot more difficult to understand now. So I will say that this topic will eventually come in the uh, in my what is it in my 12 in my 12 and 13 dimension will be able to explain this topic. So this will come a lot later of why the atomic clock is behaving like that. It will come a lot later, so I need patience. Okay. Now it is infinite and invariant. So in this invariant concept, if the atomic clock is made of atom, then obviously it is going to be affected by atom, which the earth itself is made of atom. You get the point, right? So when the atomic clock slows down near gravity, where the gravity itself is a part of atom and atom increases gravity, then we should be asking, why does atom increases gravity? This is the thing, and it is one of the characteristics of the atom. Okay, so instead of this, Einstein basically created the model called space-time model, which is a total bullshit and a waste of time. Okay, now the infinite part. Okay, the infinite part. Okay, so what is infinite part? I will talk about that a little bit later. Okay, let's talk about this one. It is non-spatial and orthogonal. So here's the thing. The negative four dimension, it has no shape. It allows the reality to function. Okay, it allows the reality to FUNCTION. It allows the reality to function. It does not need any shape, because this allows the reality to function. Okay, so does it have any shape? It has no shape. Okay, so we need to be careful. Does negative 4 dimension have any shape? No, it is an ontological model. It doesn't need shape. Okay, key metaphysics properties, non-locality. Okay, so this negative 4 thing exists in every places at once to function. It doesn't need to stay in one place. Okay, it is non-manipulable. Okay, so this came to the idea against the same thing, that the negative 4 dimension cannot be manipulated because it allows the reality to function. So if it allows the reality to function, then what happens is gravity affecting the atomic clock is part of the function. So negative 4 dimension is not affected by the gravity or by the atom, because this does not get affected. This causes the function of the reality to happen, reality to function, and this reality functioning causes the gravity, which is part of the atom, to affect the atomic clock. Okay, so this is how it should be working. And pre-causality. Okay, its existence is mandatory prerequisite for any causal relationship to happen. So if the atomic clock okay, if the atomic clock is affected by the gravity, then obviously if the cause of measurement, okay, let's say the atomic clock is getting affected by the gravity, but how do we know? We know by the measurement. So by that issue we can say that this -4 allows us to make this comparison, and then we say that the atomic clock is somehow getting affected by the gravity. Intangibility, it cannot be directly accessed, simulated, or something like that. Okay, so again, as I said, okay, somewhere around here, if a human being is made of atom and they are working within this 16 dimension of characteristics of the atom, then obviously if we try to go and let's say we understood quantum mechanics very well, okay, let's, we need to do it in a dramatical matter. So let's say I fucking Einstein have finally able to say that we can fucking change the reality by going faster than the speed of light, which we call special relativity. And from that point of perspective we can say we can manipulate time itself. This is total bullshit. This is total bullshit. So in that case we are basically saying that every living being, doesn't matter what they are, every living being and non-living being that exist within this 1 to 16 dimensional model, we are able to access the -4 dimension and change the speed. No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. We do not have the ability to go and manipulate the -4 to 0 dimension in the CKDM model. Okay, so this is the whole issue. Now another topic should be hierarchy of dimension. Okay, so as I already said that -4 to 0 is ontological dimension. They exist but we cannot create them because these are the dimension that created the behavior of the atom, so it is not possible. So this is the same topic, not gonna repeat it again. So now imagine the room. Okay, so again this thing, room. So I have already talked about that if gravity exists but it is working in room A but not in room B, then we have to understand that the concept of continuity is allowing the ball to fall on the ground because the continuity exists in room A, but in room B the physics is working but the activation didn't happen because the continuity is absent. So it is again the same thing with the battery, as I've already said. Where is the battery of the reality? It is not within the hand of mankind, it is outside. Okay, now this is where majority of the scientists gets it wrong. Why does the scientists get it wrong? Because the issue is not that the scientists are getting it wrong. The issue is the current scientists are using the space time model of Einstein. And Einstein said whenever something goes at a very high velocity, then time can bend. This is due to Lorentz transformation. So this Lorentz transformation, under Einstein didn't understand it properly and just said this is Lorentz transformation. Then if Lorentz transformation is true, then if something moves very fast, the atomic clock will slow down, and then people just took it for granted. Like Einstein did math but he didn't know how the math was working. He just only tried to Einstein only tried to maintain Einstein only tried to maintain Maxwell equation, and by trying to maintain the Maxwell equation to say that the speed of light is the speed of light is the same for every frame of reference, is where the problem began. Because if according to Einstein, if the speed of light is the same for every frame of reference, then we should be asking, uh, first of all, what did Einstein thought? Einstein thought that maybe space and time bends to make the speed of light constant for every O for observer, but that is not how it is working. We must need to assume it in the following manner. If space, okay, so, okay, here it is. If space, let's say there is a space here, 1 trillion kilometer distance. In this space, if there is an atom here and there is an atom here, and this atom is providing light source to this one, and this one causes reflection. So according to Einstein, Einstein would say that the speed of light remains the same, but the distance shrink. This is not what is happening. What is happening, however, is if the every frame of reference is basically the same, then it would mean that the speed of light is reaching from this point here, the torchlight, to this almost instantly. And this was later proven by Bell's theorem. But I'm not gonna say more than that. I'm just saying that Einstein did math, and when you do math with math, math, when you do math without logic, the entire foundation will break. So what is the logic foundation? The logic foundation is if every atom, atom has total 1 to 16 characteristics, it is important for us to understand all of the 16 characteristics of the atom. Instead, what Einstein did, Einstein went with classical physics math. Okay, so first came Newton, Newton. So first came Newton, who was a classical physics expert. Then came Einstein. I'm gonna say just E for Einstein. Okay, so Einstein came, took this classical physics and made it into uh, neo classical physics. But after Einstein came Schrodinger. Okay, and then after Schrodinger uh, came Bell theorem. Bell theorem. Okay, Bell's theorem. So in the Bell's theorem, what Bell's theorem saw that whatever the speed of light is, about 300,000 kilometer per second. Okay, this is the speed of light, about 300,000 kilometer per second. Bell's theorem saw that entanglement is in a certain experiment done, which I'm not gonna speak everything here. If one electron is detected on the top, then the other electron is always detected in the bottom, or if one electron is detected on the bottom, one is detected on the top. So what he did, okay, he said Bell's theorem, or the Bell's theorem is basically a scientist. Let me show you this guy's picture here, otherwise you are gonna get confused. Dr. uh, Bell Bell theorem. Okay, Bell theory. So Bell theory, man. So this is uh, John Stuart Bell. See, so this is the guy who did the experiment and say, okay, we are gonna do the test, but instead of just doing up and down, we are going to do in a three manner. If detected in a certain ratio, I do not remember what the exact ratio was. If the detection was in a certain ratio, then we will be able to know if uh, reality is happening instantly or not. So according to Bell's theorem, what Bell's theorem saw, or what Dr. Bell Stewart, so Bell Stewart, what did he saw? He saw that majority of the time, okay, majority of the time, it seems like even though the direction is these three, up, up, middle, left, and right, lower, bottom, that is whatever you might call it, it would synchronize in such a way that it would always seems like that the action is happening instantly, and it was happening where the entanglement is if one electron is detected on the top, then the other is detected at the bottom, and if the bottom is detected, then we can already assume that the next one is going to be on the top. This never went away. Okay, this was maintained even in these three directions. Then eventually Bell Stewart came to the idea that quantum mechanic is happening faster than the speed of light c. So the speed of light c is called the constant c. So it was always happening faster than 300,000 kilometer per distance, sorry, per second. So this is where Einstein was wrong. Einstein, what he actually detected, okay, was before Einstein, it was Michael Albertson. Okay, Michael Albertson. So again, Michael Albertson was the one. Michael, um, Michael, Michael, Michael Al Bart. So Michael Albertson. Okay, here it is. So Michael Albertson, the speed only, speed only, the speed of light, the speed of light. So Michael Albertson was the one who detected the speed of light. Okay, Michael A. Albertson was it? Okay, so one of the thing about the when it comes to the speed of light is the speed of light was recorded by this person called Michael A. Albertson. So what Michael A. Albertson did was he went to two mountain, and then he put a detector on one side and a light source in another side, and then he detected the speed of light, but it was taken to a very high place to make sure that there was nothing in between. But we are forgetting that on the top of the mountain there is something called air. So when it comes to air, we must need to understand that there are many layers of air. Let's say this is the earth, and as more you go outside of the earth, eventually the type of atoms that can be found in each layer decreases. So we are forgetting that when the speed of light was measured from this place and this place, there was air molecule in between. So the air molecule actually lowered the quantum event to the point that it caused the speed of light to be detected at about 300,000 kilometer per second. 300,000, not 300, 300,000 kilometer per second. So let's say, okay, let me do it again. 300,000 kilometer per second. So this is how the speed of light was measured. So if there are air molecule in between each of the atoms, sorry, I mean in the detection from mountain A to mountain B, then how can we assume that it was pure vacuum? It wasn't pure vacuum. And then later people are gonna say that it was done in a laboratory. In the laboratory there was pure vacuum. But here's the thing, the laboratory that in which it was done, the lab was inside the lab. The lab was inside the earth. Okay, the lab was inside the earth, but the earth circumference is overall about 14,000 kilometer. So obviously what they did, they use reflective mirror and many other stuff to measure the speed of light c. So from that point of perspective, we can say it again, the reflector itself is also made of what? Atom. So if the reflector is also made of atom, then who are we to assume that the atom on the reflector itself is not absorbing the quantum effect? This is the exact issue, which is why Bell's theorem is the only thing that actually breaks the relativity model of Einstein. And that was the only thing. That was the only thing that give us the explanation of what actually happened. So to further demonstrate such topic, we must need to understand. Okay, so I'm back. Sorry about that. So again, we must need to understand what is happening in this case. In this case, we need to understand something very important, such as why did the other scientists fail? The other scientists fail because they were very busy with math, because they were very busy were with math, that they forgot how the function actually works. Okay, so as I explained here, why math fails without logic. Math fails without logic because relativity was mostly about one experiment, one or two experiment, and majority of the others were math. So here's the thing: Einstein was busy. Okay, Einstein was busy. Hello. Okay, so Einstein was busy with what? Einstein was busy with uh, 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 what was it? Maxwell equation. So Einstein was busy with Maxwell equation, but we are forgetting that Maxwell equation is mostly what? Electromagnetic field related stuff. Like a magnetic field creates an electric field, or an electric field creates a magnetic field, which was proven. And then it was proven by three different people. Okay, like magnetic field creates an electric field, magnetic field creates an electric field, and an electric field creates a magnetic field. This was proven by three different people, and then Maxwell came and caused those three formula to come together to say an electromagnetic theory. Okay, and Einstein was busy with explaining Maxwell equation to the point that he forgot what if the possibility were to be something else if there were no atoms, because Maxwell equation worked inside a copper, and copper is made of what? Atom. I'm not gonna write the whole thing, it is becoming a little bit difficult on mouse. So this copper, what is this copper made of? Atom. So how can we assume that it is pure vacuum? Because it was this place where Maxwell thought that maybe the speed of light is equivalent to about 300,000 kilometer per second. Okay, so when we assume an atomic field such as the air with the is equivalent to vacuum, pure vacuum, it is not going to be the same. It is not going to be the same. This is where the problem started. And because of this reason, again, Einstein failed, because Einstein did not realize what would happen if we were to do the measurement in pure vacuum, not in a lab made of reflective mirror, or measuring the speed of light between two mountains where there is air molecule in between. This is not pure vacuum. This is atomic matter interacting with the quantum effect. So obviously this will never be the same. Okay, so this is the thing. This is exactly where pure math fails, which is why I have stated in my paper that why math fails without logic. Math fails without logic because Einstein and many other people says that air air in the environment will not cause deviation of the result in a pure vacuum. Not true. This is not true. Okay, so this is the exact logic fail, because pure vacuum is the vacuum of space, because in the vacuum of space we cannot see the ray of light at all, but on earth we see the ray of light because there are air molecules from point A to point B in the mountain. Okay, now let's move on. Where is the battery of the clock? So eventually the same conclusion comes. Where is the battery of the clock? All of these are where the physics function, right? Where is the physics function of reality? Because at the end of the day, if all of these type of clocks are working, they need a function, and that is where the negative 4 dimension concept comes into play. Now you might be asking, okay, why negative 4? Why not something else? Because I thought of it in a logical pattern of how a program functions within a computer simulation and how can we play the game. So from that point of perspective I started. For example, now let's talk about my topic. It is my dimensional knowledge. So why did I start with -4? I started with -4 because it is kind of like the loop function. Okay, now the loop function will always work. It doesn't matter if there are any laws exist or not, it will always work. But this loop function need to work on something, which is why the concept of -1 dimension comes into play, which is the rules of the output. Okay, in our case it is the rules of the atom. The atom has a certain rules. Okay, now what is -3 then? -3 is basically the recording. Okay, the recording of this loop function. Okay, so whatever the loop function is doing, it is following, it is completing the rules of the -1 dimension, which is the rules of the universe, and the -3 dimension is basically recording it. Okay, and just like you are watching this video, what am I doing? I'm recording the video. But how can you see that I am recording the video? Because my recording is already being done by the computer, which is why you can see the video again. Now how are you going to rewatch this video? With -2 dimension, which is basically the reversal of the recording. So in order for you to actually rewatch this video, what you need to do is to complete the function of the computer, and that is you need to restart the function. Let's say a video, you need to restart the video to watch it again, right? You need to do that. Okay, this is where the -2 dimension comes into play, which is a reversal of continuity. How can you do that? You basically restart the game or the video, or you can use the drag button. Let's say this is the VLC player and there is a bar here. If you were to pull it back, then you can watch the video again. So this is the reverse continuity. This reverse continuity only works when there is the record of continuity, and the record of continuity only works when the continuity itself is working. But if anything needs to be visible, then this loop function must need to execute something with this. So this is how my dimensional concept work on how this -4 dimension actually works. Okay, now let's look back to the last few more logic. Okay, so here's the thing. In my topic I said that the -4 dimension is actually infinite. Okay, the -4 dimension is in phi nit infinite. Okay, so the -4 dimension is infinite. So the question is, why is the -4 dimension infinite? Allow me to explain. So the two atomic clock that I have mentioned here is the cesium atom and the strontium atom. So cesium atomic clock has a frequency of about 9.1 billion vibration or hertz per second, whereas the strontium atom has a let's see, this is billion, trillion, about 420, about 430 trillion, about 430 trillion vibration per second. Okay, trillion, this one is billion and this one is trillion. So the question is, in this case, when people were using to measure the atomic clock with the cesium atom, let's say this is the cesium atom, they were detecting about how much? About 9.1 billion vibration. Okay, or let's say this is quantum vibration. Okay, and in the strontium atom, the amount of vibration detected is about 430 trillion vibration. So in this case, if people were to say, okay, the reality has a certain frame rate limit, and that is about 9.1 billion. Okay, so the question is, okay, how can we even say it is 9.1 billion? Because suppose certain scientists are gonna say, I know that they haven't said anything, but they might say, okay, this is the maximum because we are able to detect the vibration up to such efficiency that we have detected about 9.1 billion quantum vibration. And then when came the strontium atom, which is about 430 trillion, about 430 trillion vibration, then scientists are going to assume again, the stupid scientists, not the smart ones. The smart one are going to say, we don't know. The stupid one are going to say the reality has a frame rate limit of about 430 trillion frame rate limit. Okay, so this is where my concept came. Okay, if in the future, if another new type of atomic clock were to come, whatever it might be, let's say u for unknown atomic clock, I do not know what they are going to be, so I'm going to assume an unknown atom. So whatever those unknown atom might be, will have a frame rate of uh, 10 decillion. Decillion is like comes a lot later. It is like billion, trillion, pentillion, quadrillion, and then something like those. It comes in the 10th number. So after that, the scientists are gonna say it is 10 decillion. The frame rate of reality is 10 decillion. Then I'm gonna say, if you say that, you are a fucking moron, because if the new atom were to be detect any more vibration, then it would mean that the reality functions a lot more than the vibration material vibrate. Okay, so this is why I said that -4 dimension, which is the record of continuity, has a frame rate limit of unlimited. Every time you try to measure something with the atom, it will be more than that. Otherwise, we will not be able to detect anything. If we are not be able to detect anything, it doesn't matter what it is going to be. Okay, for example, when I was talking about this topic with not chat gpt, Gemini told me something very important that is actually logicful. Okay, let's say I want to make a certain video. Okay, let's say an anime video. I want to make an anime video which will have a frame rate of 300 frames per second. But when I am trying to render this video, with my PC, it is taking a lot of time. Just because it is taking a lot of time does not mean the overall render quality or the render amount will get lowered. No, the render amount, which is about 300 frame per second, will still remain the same. So what my render uh, computer is producing is going to be the same, but whichever anime character is within that anime, they are going to feel a smooth timeline. Okay, so from that point of perspective, I will say what we are experiencing is the flow of time in one direction is basically the flow of -4 dimension, which is uh, -4 dimension, which is the loop function of the reality, is happening at such an amount that we actually do not know what is the maximum limit is. Only the one who created this system will be able to know. But who is this one who created the system? If we believe in the simulation hypothesis, then it means someone actually created this simulation hypothesis. Okay, this is where many of the scientists are gonna say, oh no, we feel like this is not gonna be happening, this and that, etc. Okay, here's the thing. The concept of computer did not exist during the time of Einstein. The concept of computer did not exist during the time of Einstein. So Einstein himself doesn't know. What simulation hypothesis could be. What the heck? Simulation hypothesis. So Einstein will not be able to know what the simulation hypothesis could be, which is why people like Einstein will often say the reality that we live in is pure reality, which is not. Okay, now let's see. Do you remember the momental? Okay, I talked about the momental, so let me talk about the final topic. So momental. So in my research paper, which I have uploaded, okay, uploaded. If you guys go to my Discord channel, okay, let me give you guys an example. My Discord channel should be in the customization. Okay, let me check. My Discord channel should be here somewhere. Here it is. This is my Discord channel, Discord server. You guys can go to my description link and you should be able to see the Discord server there. Now, as I was saying, Okay, I actually made an experimental idea. So in my research paper, I have made a research hypothesis in how to actually do that. If you guys read my paper, you will be able to understand. So I'll just say it here. Okay, so let's assume this is the mu metal. Okay, mu metal shield. So what this mu metal shield will do is it is meant to block the atomic clock interference. Okay, this is the hypothesis okay, of Einstein and many of the people who use this atomic clock to say that the reality is bending. No, 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 we must need to understand the mu metal is made of what? Atom. The atomic clock is made of what? Atom. The earth is made of what? Atom. Gravity exists where? On earth. Okay, so if gravity exists on earth, then it means gravity is part of the atomic reality. So if the mu metal shielding cover the atomic clock interference, but the atomic clock itself is interfering itself with the earth, then it means that all of the interaction which are happening are part of the atomic systems of electromagnetism. So eddy current formation, if we understood that the eddy current, eddy current formation is happening even with the mu metal itself, because the mu metal is made of what? Atom. Then we will be able to understand where we have went wrong. Okay, so what I did an experimental idea of putting a sensor inside of this mu metal mu metal, and then spin this mu metal in a very strong magnet. Make this thing spin around the magnet at a very fast rate, as near fast as possible, similarly to that of the International Space Station, because the International Space Station is moving around the earth with a speed of about 7 point something kilometer per second. Okay, so if the interference is causing the mu metal shielding itself to produce an eddy current, eddy current formation within this mu metal shielding, then it would prove that this mu metal shielding is not enough to fully block the eddy current formation, because it is part of the same system. This is what the quantum mechanics is about. Quantum mechanics is that every atom is going to cause an interference to every other atom that exists. It doesn't matter if the atom are on earth or in the International Space Station, or the mu metal itself, or the atomic clock. Okay, so in all of these cases, this is the quantum effect that is causing the time within the atomic clock to slow down when it gets faster near the earth, or when the mu metal is extremely near the earth, on the surface of the earth. Then what happens? The effect of the earth gravity, which happens due to atoms, are affecting the mu metal shielding, and the entire, not only the mu metal shielding, like the entire atomic apparatus itself. As a result, the measurement is getting bent. The measurement is getting bent. Okay, the measurement is getting bent, not the reality. Okay, what the heck? Okay, and okay, this is why the measurement is getting bent. Okay, the measurement is getting bent. What is not getting bent is the uh, -4 continuity. The -4 continuity is not getting bent. This does not care anything. This produces the effect. This does not care about anything. So when Einstein said that the when velocity causes speed and time to bend, false. Nothing is happening. The velocity, or let's say gravity does not bend time. Only the measurement device itself gets affected due to the quantum effect. this is my -4 dimension, okay? And this is exactly what you will find in this website, except I am extremely sorry, today or maybe tomorrow my website will be updated, and I will say this, the home will be updated and the -4 will be updated, and this will look a little bit different because I just written here as -4D, but I will eventually write here uh, -4D, the loop function of reality or the true continuity. Okay, so what is the name of my -4 dimension? Remember very carefully, the -4 dimension is loop function. Okay, I'm just gonna write here loop function of reality or true continuity. This is time. Time. This is time. Now I know it was very hard for a lot of people to understand what is happening. So I highly suggest that you people please watch this video again, and then you will eventually be able to understand what I have written here. I want to remove the idea that this atomic clock measurement causes the rippling effect within the dimension that created this atomic activity is not true. I just want to say, whoever scientist says this, they only use math, which is why I said math without logic will always lead to failure. Wolf will always lead to failure. Wolf. So in this case, Paul Dirac plus Albert Einstein plus Minkowski, they are idiot. In my book, they are idiot. So if you like this video, then please go to my channel and my YouTube channel. This is my YouTube channel, King1993 Gaming. You guys can go there. I have even made a playlist. If you are a science enthusiast, only look at the playlist here. Colorless King dimensional model. Let's rewrite the bad part of the physics. Okay. So goodbye. Stay safe. See you again next time. The website is not completed yet. Once it is completed, I will let you know. Okay, I will make sure that the website will have ads, but the ad will not affect you because the ad will be running on the side. Okay, uh, I feel very good after actually making this. I actually hate the relativity model. Okay, so goodbye. Wait, stop. There is one important thing I forgot to mention, so don't worry, I will eventually write it on the YouTube YouTube title itself. Watch till the end. Okay, so here is the thing. Okay, so another part I forgot to mention is that then what would happen in continuity if a person has superhuman capability, that he or she is able to move in reality with a time of 0.5 second, or let's say zero point 0.1, or let's say 0.00001. Okay, what will happen in this case? So in this case, I have made a diagram. For example, this is a track line, okay, and time, as the people are moving forward, time will eventually be uh, happen. Okay, so the question is, if a certain human being, okay, for some reason this is a human A and this is human B, human A is a superhuman and human B is a normal human. So in this concept, what will happen? So during the time of Einstein, okay, during the time of Einstein, the problem with Einstein was that Einstein lived in a time where there were no concept of superhuman being, rather the concept of superhuman being come much later, okay, by the time Einstein died. So because of this reason, one does not grasp the idea of what would happen if a, let's say, a Superman, let's say Superman, no, it should be Goku. Let's say Goku. No, okay, let's say Goku. Will it be Goku? Okay, let's say it is Mr. Superman, the colorless king dimension maker. Okay, so let's say I'm the Superman. Okay, I am the Superman. Okay, and let's assume that I can cross a total distance of 5 trillion kilometer in a matter of 1 second. So 5 trillion, okay, 5 trillion kilometer in 1 second. So if a normal human being, okay, a normal human being were to do the same about 5 trillion kilometer in 1 second, so what will happen in this case? In this case, the normal human will be able to detect time, but to him, he will experience, the normal human will experience time a lot slower. So as a result, what will happen in the case of the superhuman? The superhuman is feeling more moment. Okay, okay, let me start again. So the superhuman will feel the 1 second as though, as if this superhuman is living this 1 second for many many years, many years, EARS, many years. Okay, but in case of the normal human, to him, even that, forget about this many years concept, to the normal human, to the normal human why did I written am, why did I man, for the normal human, to him it will feel like that the one about 5 trillion kilometer is way too much, and that normal human will die by the time he or she he or she reaches the end, reaches the end eventually. So the superhuman will cross these 5 trillion kilometer within 1 second, but for a normal human, he or she will not be able to cross these 1 trillion kilometer, and eventually he or she will die. So in this case, for a normal human perspective, to us the reality is moving much faster, and for a normal, not a normal, let's say for a superhuman, it will feel like the reality is not moving at all, which is why 1 second feels a lot longer. So this is my point of perspective, what would happen if someone is extremely fast. Okay, so at the end, the question is, how is this different from Einstein? From the concept of Einstein, we eventually understand that from concept of Einstein, Einstein would say, if a normal human being were to be moving at the speed of light, then that human will feel like everything is moving around him very slowly. Okay, up to this point, superhuman concept is working, but we are forgetting that this is a normal human, not a superhuman. So a superhuman, if the superhuman is able to move within this speed, this superhuman will able to experience the reality a lot more within 1 second than a person who is a normal human being. This normal human being will feel like he, this normal human being is in an instant, ins instant, has gone from place A to place B very fast. So this is not the same concept. Einstein is saying this person will be able to experience, he, compared to him, everything around him will move very slowly. No, this normal person will feel in an instant that he or she has arrived from place A to place B instantly, whereas for the superhuman will experience that he or she has gotten from point A to point B and it took him a lot of time, but during those movement not a single person around him moved. So if this is the superhuman, so every normal person around him, every normal person around him will feel like they are not moving at all. So I'm not saying north and south, I'm saying superhuman and non-superhuman. So compared to a non-superhuman, a superhuman will feel like everyone around him or her is not moving at all. So this is my conclusion of what would happen. So uh, even in my part one of my research paper, I said if a plane has a camera attached to it, two camera, not one, camera two camera total, and camera A record at a frame rate of 60 frame per second, and a camera B is recording at a frame of 1 million frame per second, then if the plane itself is moving at a Mach speed of 10, then to camera A it would feel like everything is unclear, everything is unclear, nothing is detectable, everything looks like a white or greenish light on the screen or on the monitor. Whereas for a camera that is moving or that is recording at a speed of 1 million frame per second, to them it would feel like, to that camera it would feel like everything is moving very smoothly. As a result, the camera the video output is going to be very smooth. Okay, so this is the actual reality what would happen. So the question is, in case of Einstein is very wrong, because as I said, math without logic will always lead to failure. Always lead, or always, okay, I think I always lead to failure. I think I written something else before, but this is the thing. Will eventually lead to failure, something like that. Will eventually lead to failure. Wealth, yeah, wealth is the three scientists, Paul Dirac, Einstein, Minkowski, and every other people who follows the string theory and and the M theory. The string theory and M theory will fail eventually because they do not look for what is actually happening. They only look for math, and that is not going to work. Okay, sorry, please watch till the end. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. This is now finally the last part, and the last part I forgot to mention is the entropy. So when people talk about time, why do they often talk about entropy? This is a problem that I must need to address. Okay, so here's the thing. Let's talk about atom. So atom has a state in which when it is cold, the heat, okay, the heat, let's say this is the atom rod. The lower part is cold and the top part is hot. Okay, so heat will always detect where the cold is and will always go in this area. Okay, this is normally how it goes. Now the question is, what is this? This is entropy. Okay, entropy is the concept of when a certain atom, let's say a lot of hydrogen atom, are inside a box. Okay, inside a box, let's say they are in organized pattern because it is cold. So what will happen if heat increases? When heat increases, then obviously all of these atoms are going to be expand their distance away from each other within the same box. Okay, so the question is, okay, why is this happening? This is happening because entropy is the concept of idea that when atom gains energy, they want to be away from each other, and this is where the concept of entropy comes into play. Now we human beings often see that when the concept of time is mentioned, people say, time moves only forward. Time moves only forward. Let's say this is moving forward. Time is moving forward because of entropy. And I say fuck you. I say fuck you. Why? As I already mentioned, negative 4 dimension is pure continuity, or pure time. This is like the loop function of reality. This allows entropy to happen. This allows entropy to happen. Okay, this is not the same concept. To say time is equivalent to entropy is false. False. It is not true. What is true is uh, pure continuity or pure time. Let's say pure time is one thing, and entropy. Okay, entropy causes the atom to spread out. Okay, the atom to spread out is different. So uh, time, pure time, negative 4D, which is pure time. Pure time is like the loop function of reality. It is outside of the system, and entropy is part of the one to one of the 16 dimension of the CKDM model. Okay, this is one of the example of the CKDM model. Entropy, that entropy always try to go for from low energy area to high energy, from high energy area to low energy area. This is what entropy is. Entropy is a function of the negative one dimension. So one will ask, okay, if it is a function of negative one dimension, then what is this for? This is called reverse engineering. If we look at the different characteristics of the atom, then we will be able to know how many type of functions were given to the atom itself in the negative one dimension. So this is how it goes. Entropy is one of the formula of the behavior and the characteristics of the atom. But to say that the atom entropy causes time to move forward, this is false. Okay, this is false. We should need to be very careful when we say this, because many scientists who are let's say extremely good at math will always go to the wrong topic of entropy versus time. Time and entropy are completely different thing. Time happens regardless of anything, and entropy is the rules that was created, and that rules causes this reality to happen, rules and reality to happen. And this reality, one of the entropy is one of the part of the reality. It is not directly here, it must need to follow this rule. What is this? Time allows the rules to maintain, and these rules causes the reality to happen, and entropy is part of the reality, which we call reality or the simulation hypothesis. So what is entropy then? Entropy, before going to the entropy, I will say this again. This is pure time, and okay, not that. Okay, this is pure time, and this causes entropy of the reality to happen. Okay, do not get confused the atomic behavior with what is ontological. If you mix that up, okay, from negative 4 to dimension 0 in my CKDM model, if you mess these two up, then you are the stupid one. Okay, you need to understand the difference between what is ontological, something that no human being or any of the system that is inside the simulation hypothesis to actually cause the effect within the material that is causing the simulation hypothesis to exist. Okay, so this is the final one. So goodbye, stay safe, and see you again next time in the colorless king dimensional model